Unfortunately, Khamzat Chimaev is out of the fight next weekend in Saudi Arabia violently, and I mean violently ill. So he's going back home, and hopefully he gets well soon. The replacement, Ikram Aliskerov.
Khamzat Chimaev is violently ill when you thought that things couldn't possibly get worse for UFC this June with Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler being totally off. I don't care what they're saying. Oh, it's still... No, it's not on. McGregor and Chandler's done. It's off. All right, what they're doing, and I'll talk about that in a little bit after we discuss this new matchup that saved UFC Saudi Arabia. What the UFC is doing with the McGregor fight is pretty obvious at this point. They're just trying to milk everyone out of their last penny, their last dime. They're trying to make sure that they cancel this officially at the last second so that by then everyone has already paid for their hotel room, they've paid for their flight, and they're totally in, and it's really difficult to pull out. So that's exactly what the UFC is doing. The McGregor fight not happening, so that's done. Jamal Hill is apparently in jeopardy of pulling out of his fight. I don't know what's going on, but him and Carlos Ulberg might not happen. I don't know who is injured out of the two or who's pulling out, but UFC 303 is looking like it's been destroyed completely. But let's talk about this Robert Whittaker and Ikram Aliskerov matchup. I'm happy that this was put together because Ikram Aliskerov was set to face an absolute can. I don't even know the guy's name. I totally forgot his name. He was set to face a nobody. It would have been an easy KO just to take up a spot on the Saudi Arabia card. Khamzat Chimaev pulled out. I don't think that he should get a ton of flack and criticism. It is just another example of how much he's fallen off in his career, but it's not his fault. This guy's in the hospital. He's got Guram Kutluladze looking like he's distraught. I don't think that this is BS. I think Khamzat Chimaev actually has some horrible health conditions. We've seen this guy looking like he's been stung by 1,000 bees on Instagram before. We've seen Khamzat Chimaev have to be out for an entire year because he got sick in 2020. It's his immune system that is ruining his career at this point, and I think that has to do with why he's gassing out in his fights. But either way, Ikram Aliskerov and Robert Whittaker is probably the best matchup the UFC could have made because, I mean, you're basically getting a guy that looks like Khamzat Chimaev. He's one of the brothers. He's got the same beard. Yes, he's lost by Khamzat, or he's lost by a Khamzat uppercut, but this is the most similar stylistic matchup. The UFC was thinking about getting other guys in here, maybe Jared Cannonier, Nasruddin Imavov. I heard a rumor that they were trying to get Nasruddin Imavov. That would be so much worse because Nasruddin Imavov's just gotten beat up in a dogfight with Jared Cannonier. Instead, we're getting a guy that's fresh, that was preparing for this exact fight card in Saudi Arabia, that has a very similar style to Khamzat Chimaev. He's a grappler for the most part. He's known for his grappling, even though he's only KO'd people in the UFC. When he made his debut, people were talking about, dude, this is the only guy that was able to stuff takedowns from Khamzat Chimaev. And not only did he stuff them, but he made it look effortless. So at least we still see a similar stylistic matchup that we had before with a guy that's fresh, that's been preparing for this date, that's had a full training camp. Fair enough, it's been for a different opponent. Whittaker's going to have that advantage in getting to prepare for a similar stylistic matchup, whereas whoever the fuck Ikram Aliskerov was fighting, he was a nobody. He was an absolute can. He was supposed to just go out there and get a free KO. Now he's facing one of the best fighters in the division who he's just not prepared for. I mean, stylistically, Robert Whittaker's a completely different beast from whoever the hell he was supposed to take on. Whittaker's going to have a huge advantage in that. I mean, you could say that the UFC Saudi Arabia card is completely saved. Yes, Khamzat versus Whittaker would have been a better fight. There's no denying that. But it's not like we're really losing anything either. We still get to see a really good matchup with two fighters that have had a full training camp for the exact same card. And the only matchup we lose is Ikram Aliskerov versus Akan, which would have meant absolutely nothing. So I'm happy this fight was made. I'll let you guys know right now I was planning to pick Khamzat Chimaev to beat Robert Whittaker. And one of the main reasons why I was going to pick him is because of the divisional skill gap that you guys have heard me talk about for the last 6 months, maybe even a year. I've been talking about divisional skill gaps. Whenever there's a fight between two guys where one guy is moving up a weight class or moving down a weight class, I was picking Khamzat because I thought, you know what? Yes, Robert Whittaker has always been known as one of the truly elite middleweights, the middleweight division being kind of shitty skill-wise. Whittaker's someone that stands out. Now, Khamzat Chimaev, moving up from welterweight, is going to have that welterweight grappling skill, that welterweight grappling speed. And even though Whittaker's got good takedown defense against the likes of Yoel Romero, let's be honest, Yoel Romero is shooting 3 takedowns in a 5-round fight. Yoel Romero is not really known for submissions. He's just known for a slick takedown. He's incredibly strong, but he's not really a Khamzat Chimaev on the ground. Totally different style of grappler. Robert Whittaker, outside of the Yoel Romero fights, outside of the Jacare Souza fight, which was in the 90s as far as we're concerned, all right, he's not really fought elite grapplers. Khamzat Chimaev took down Kamaru Usman, who had the best takedown defense in the UFC at the time, arguably, who's had it tested more often than Robert Whittaker as well, who's also got the welterweight skill. If he's taking down Kamaru Usman, 10-8ing him in the first round, and taking him down in the second, and the third when he's gassed, the third round when he's totally gassed out, he's taking down Robert Whittaker. And you can sit here and say, well, Whittaker's got that scrambled eggs breakfast on him. He knows how to whip up some scrambled eggs. He's got a good scramble. I'd say yes, but once Khamzat has Robert Whittaker on the ground, he's a different beast with that welterweight speed, that grappling. Those guys just operate at a different frequency, man. The biggest divisional skill gap is from 170 and 185, but not only is Robert Whittaker going to have the advantage of preparing for an opponent similar to the one that just pulled out, whereas Ikram's been preparing for a punching bag. As far as I'm concerned, Ikram Aleskadov has also been a middleweight forever. He fought Khamzat Chimaev at catchweight, but I've gone back and looked at a lot of his fights. Even though he's not big for the middleweight division, he's only been fighting middleweights. So Ikram Aleskadov, unlike Khamzat Chimaev, is not going to have that divisional skill advantage. He's not going to have that extra slickness, that extra speed. He's not known for the same dominance in his grappling as Khamzat Chimaev was, even before Khamzat got into the UFC. Every argument for Robert Whittaker beating Khamzat Chimaev is made 10 times stronger if it's against Ikram Aleskadov. The argument to be made for Whittaker was he's probably got amazing takedown defense, but it's not really been tested against the best guys. He might get taken down by Khamzat. If he can survive the first round, Whittaker's going to be able to find that groove. Where Whittaker gets into a groove, he's going to be able to stuff takedowns more easily as the fight progresses. He's going to be able to sprawl and brawl. He's going to be able to stay light on the feet and land those hard karate blitz combinations and get right out and be super difficult to pin down in the octagon and find and get your hands on. So he might be able to win a decision. Now he's got a guy in Ikram Aleskadov who's much less dangerous on the ground, who's taking 3 rounds to finish Dennis Talulin, which is not the best look. Not the same submission game, not the same takedown accuracy. I mean, I could make the argument that Khamzat's got better takedown offense, takedown accuracy than anyone we've ever seen in the upper weight classes right now. The only dangerous element in this fight for Whittaker is Ikram Aleskadov's power on the feet, because Whittaker is a little bit chinny, and he's been known to hit an Irish jig every once in a while when he gets hit. So I am a little bit worried that he's going into a fight with a more powerful guy than Paulo Costa. We know Paulo Costa. He's a pretty big guy, but he just doesn't have any pop. Ikram Aleskadov's got some pop. All right, Ikram Aleskadov's got a nasty jab. You never know what's going to happen in a Whittaker fight. So that's the danger. But Whittaker should be able to survive the first round. His takedown defense should be better against a guy like Ikram Aleskadov. And this is a step down in competition. So I do believe that Whittaker is going to win. But let's get on to UFC 303 being destroyed, coming down in ashes. At this point, you guys got to accept it. The McGregor fight, it's not happening. And there's a very easy explanation for it, because I know that people are saying, well, why haven't they just announced it yet? It's pretty obvious what they're doing, okay? What the UFC is doing with the McGregor fight is they are maximizing profit and promoting this event until they have to pull the plug in order to have the perfect amount of time to promote the next main event. Whatever that'll be, they're probably in the war room right now scrambling to make that fight. I have a real fear about who it'll be. If you guys want to take a guess, I'll talk about that in a minute, but the UFC is just trying to maximize profit right now, because they know that if they were to announce that the McGregor fight is off today, they're going to have a bunch of people that bought their tickets to whatever arena they're going to be at in Las Vegas. They know that a bunch of people are going to pull the plug on that, right? A bunch of people are going to try to get a refund. people are going to stop hyping up the event. Because the thing is, think about it like this. People are going to be traveling all throughout the world to see the Conor McGregor comeback. They're booking flights. They're booking hotels. They're making reservations. They're making other plans for whatever they're going to do in Las Vegas. It's harder to cancel those plans at the very last second. Because right now, everyone's in that state where they're saying to themselves, people that are going to the event, bro, apparently it's still on. We may as well fucking book the flight. I mean, we've waited this long. We may as well book the hotel, bro. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do it. Another week from now, every hotel in Las Vegas is going to be booked out. Maybe not literally, but it's going to be harder to make those arrangements. The flights are going to be more expensive. The hotel prices are going to go through the roof when McGregor, the big fat cat, comes to town. So the point that I'm making is the UFC knows this. The UFC knows that, these people are starting to feel the pressure. They're probably going to book those flights. They're going to book those hotels because if we told them that the McGregor fight was off, they probably wouldn't. And the event wouldn't be as big. It wouldn't make as much money. People wouldn't fly out to Vegas. They wouldn't book their hotels, and they would get their refunds. They're just simply trying to milk every last penny from the fans so that by the time they announce whoever the new main event's going to be, everyone's already locked in. All right? They need 1 week to promote a new fight. That's it. Just 1 week. The McGregor fight's off. We got to accept it. I know that the UFC took down the free fights and they stopped promoting it for like 48 hours and then they resumed. But there was something going on. What I think happened is that McGregor may have been injured and the UFC probably said, listen, man, you're pulling out of this, Dublin press conference. The people think that was like a thing to sell UFC 303. You think the UFC is really trying to sell a McGregor card by scaring the shit out of fans into thinking that this thing isn't even going to happen? Oh yeah, that's such a good way to make sure that people get their tickets to go to the event. Just having people think that it's not actually going to fucking happen. Come on. That's ridiculous. What the UFC probably told McGregor, if he got injured, if he, freaked himself out before the Dublin event, maybe he threw a bit of a tantrum in the gym, who knows what's happening with McGregor? All right. Some people say he's got a screw loose. Some people say that McGregor, he's quick to blow a fuse. I think McGregor may have gotten hurt. And I think the UFC said, hey, man, take a couple days. But we need you for this. Take a couple days, man. Let it rest. Let it rest. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it, man. Hit the Black Forward Gym. And McGregor said, all right. And he probably told them a few days later that I'm feeling good. Let's get back into this. He went to the gym. He got calf kicked once. He maybe went back into the gym for his first training session and re-injured himself. And it's 10 times worse. All right. And maybe he's really trying to pull out now. And he's like, dude, this injury is actually really bad. I'm out. Now the UFC knows he's out. If the UFC and Conor McGregor were gung-ho about resuming with UFC 303, they would reassure the fans. You don't sell an event by making everyone scared that it's not going to happen. You don't sell an event by creating this skepticism of, should we get the ticket or not? Should we go to Vegas or not? That's a horrible idea. The fight's off. The fight's off. They're playing you like a fiddle if you think it's on. All right, the UFC is scrambling in the war room right now to get an event, and I have a fear of what it might be. And to make matters worse, we also might not even see the co-main event. So we're not going to get the McGregor fight. All right, it's probably Conor that's injured. It's not Michael Chandler. We know Michael Chandler's showing up with no legs, no arms, no head. Michael Chandler's showing up. He's, dedicated his last 2.5 years, every single waking second, to this fight. He's starting to post Martin Luther King quotes on his Instagram. So, he's getting desperate. I don't know, Michael Chandler just bought another coffee mug that said life is better with a piece of pie to keep himself calm. Who knows what's going on with Michael Chandler, but I feel bad for the guy. The freaking worst part about all of this is that we might lose the co-main event too. Jamal Hill's been making some noise, coping about his loss to Alex Pereira, and he's public enemy number 1 of the week. And apparently, that fight might fall off too. Now, I don't know which guy it is, Jamal Hill or Carlos Ulberg, but we might lose a sick co-main event. We're definitely losing the main event. Maybe the UFC can get Michael Chandler a late replacement, but maybe Michael Chandler's delusional and he's going to wait for Conor McGregor, which would be a really big mistake. Either way, if we lose both of those, I think the UFC is trying to book like Diego Lopez and Brian Ortega, which is a good fight, but again, if that's the replacement for a McGregor card with Jamal Hill on it, that just fucking sucks. Let's be honest. I'm not getting hyped for that. That's the biggest, all right, let's just settle with this sort of fight you could possibly make. We still have Ian Gary, we have MVP, but that could just be like a bit of a point matchup, a slow fight. It might not even be that great of a fight. just because both guys might not want to get hit that often or take that many risks with how fast they are on the feet. We have Joe Pyfer. We have Peyton Talbot. I mean, who else? That card's gone to shit. And this is probably the most unfortunate circumstance that the UFC can be in right now, because a lot of their best champions have fought recently. They're all beaten up. Hopefully Alex Pereira and Yuri Prohaska can be the ones to step in. Some people are saying that Yuri Prohaska said that he signed a contract recently, and maybe Alex Pereira's keeping this real quiet. Maybe they booked that fight a week ago, and we just don't know about it yet. But my biggest fear is that this is going to be Volkanovski stepping in. Because I watched that Roku UFC behind-the-scenes TV series, the 3 episodes that they did, and I watched that, putting together the Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev rematch sequence, and as we all suspected, Volkanovski's always leaping at the bits to get a fight. They were talking about Volk as if, dude, this guy, if we call him, we know he's signing up. We know Volk's desperate. He's asking us for a fight every week. They probably made that Volkanovski-Islam Makhachev rematch 15 minutes after finding out Charles pulled out. They know Volk's desperate. They know Volk will step up. Let's just hope that Volk doesn't say yes to an opportunity against Michael Chandler. Let's just hope that it's not Volkanovski versus whoever the fuck, Josh Emmett. All right? Volkanovski steps up. He's going to ruin his legacy that much more. Maybe he could win, but I actually have a feeling that because they know Volk is the guy to say yes to every single one of these opportunities, and once Volk says yes, because Volk, he's not going to talk to his team. He's not going to talk to his family. He's going to give the UFC the green light. They're going to start promoting him, and it's going to be, you're in too deep to pull out, right? And now you're the biggest, enemy if you pull out the week of the fight after you've talked to your team. Now he's going to be like the guy that's getting clowned if he's pulling out. So the UFC knows Volk says yes, they get the green light out there. They start promoting it. It's too late to go back. That's my fear. So let's hope Volkanovski doesn't step in, because even though he's not been out for long enough and he got KO'd 5 months ago, to Volkanovski, 5 months off is like 5 years. So, he's talking about coming back at the end of the year. The end of the year for Volkanovski is August 29th. All right. So let's hope it's not that. Either way, this UFC 303 card, it's not happening. Not with McGregor, at least. And the Robert Whittaker and Ikram fight saved UFC Saudi Arabia. It's still a sick card. You still have Volkov versus Pavlovich. You still have Johnny Walker versus Volkan as well. So I'm really liking that card still. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time.